The Bone Chalice had exposed cursed blood for 300 years. It did not lie. It did not pity. It did not forgive. If a wolf carried poison in its soul, the chalice turned black. If a bloodline had been touched by forbidden moon rites, the rim cracked. If a traitor drank from it, their veins darkened before the entire court, and the pack buried them before sunrise. That was why they brought Elara Venn before it, not because they wanted truth, because they wanted a wolfless girl to turn black in front of the Alpha King. She stood in the center of the Moonbone Hall, with silver chains around her wrists, and the whole court watching from stone terraces carved into the shape of sleeping wolves. The winter moon poured through the open ceiling, cold and white, making every breath look like smoke. Beneath her bare feet, the floor was made from polished black stone, veined with bone-white lines that all led toward the altar. On that altar sat the Bone Chalice. It had been carved from the skull of the first royal wolf, its bowl smooth and pale, its stem wrapped in old silver. Dark runes circled the rim. No wine waited inside it. No water. Only moonlight gathered thin and trembling, as if the chalice had caught a piece of the sky and forced it to become judgment. Elara had cleaned that altar for 7 years. She had never been allowed to touch the chalice. Wolfless girls did not touch royal relics. Wolfless girls carried towels, scrubbed blood from floors, folded cloaks after mating feasts, and learned not to look too long at wolves that would never answer from inside their own skin. Elara Venn, High Healer Orvain announced, stands accused of carrying cursed blood into the royal pack. His voice moved through the hall with soft authority. He was old enough to have delivered half the nobles watching her, old enough to have buried kings, old enough that cruelty sounded like wisdom when he spoke. His white robes were embroidered with silver bones. A healer's chain hung across his chest, each link carved with a wolf's tooth. Elara kept her hands open at her sides. She had learned that clenched fists made nobles call you dangerous. Open hands made them call you helpless. Either way, they called you something before they called you human. She has no wolf. Orvain continued. No inner scent, no moon response. Yet last night, 3 royal guards found her outside the Alpha King's healing chamber after the beast. Sickness worsened. A ripple moved through the court. Beast sickness. No one liked saying it aloud. For 2 years, Alpha King Kaelen Draven's wolf had been dying. Not his body. His wolf. The enormous black beast that had once led the northern packs through war, famine, and 3 winter rebellions. The royal wolf no longer shifted in full moonlight, no longer answered pack challenges. Sometimes, during council nights, a howl moved through the palace walls so full of pain that even the strongest alphas lowered their heads and pretended they had heard thunder. The court called it illness. Servants called it a curse. Elara had heard it differently, like a creature trying not to scream. She looked toward the high throne. Alpha King Kaelen stood instead of sitting, one hand resting on the carved wolf head armrest. He wore black armor beneath a heavy winter mantle, his dark hair loose around a face made sharp by command and sleeplessness. His eyes were silver gray, colder than moonlit steel, and beneath that coldness, something was breaking slowly. He did not look sick. That made the sickness more frightening. The wolf shadow behind him flickered against the wall in the moonlight. Huge, black, distorted, not fully formed. It should have matched his body like any alpha's shadow. Instead, it moved separately, ears flattened, ribs showing, one massive paw trembling as if holding back pain no man could admit. Elara stared one heartbeat too long. The wolf shadow turned its head toward her, and for one impossible heartbeat, Elara felt certain the dying beast recognized her. Her breath caught. No one else seemed to notice, except Kaelen. His gaze sharpened. For one strange second, the entire court disappeared. There was only the Alpha King looking at her, as if she had heard something meant to stay buried. and Elara trying to remember how to breathe under the attention of a man whose wolf could crush kingdoms even while dying. Then Orvain stepped into her line of sight. The accused was found near the king's chamber, with black moonroot on her hands, he said. Elara's fingers curled before she could stop them. Black moonroot was poison to wolves. Not always fatal. Worse. It entered the beast soul and made the inner wolf turn against its own blood. A healer could use tiny amounts to draw out infection, but in the wrong hands it was treason. I was cleaning the corridor, Elara said. Her voice sounded small in the great hall. A noblewoman laughed from the left terrace. At midnight, the healers spilled ash water. Convenient, someone murmured. Elara lifted her chin. Ask who sent me there. Orvain's eyes cooled. The small silence after her words told her she had cut too close to something. Kaelen noticed that too. Who sent you? The Alpha King asked. His voice was lower than she expected. Not loud, not merciful, controlled enough to be dangerous. Elara looked at him. A healing page. Red hair, burn scar on his wrist. He said, High Healer Orvain ordered the corridor cleared before dawn. Orvain sighed, almost sadly. There is no such page in the healing wing, the court murmured. Elara's stomach tightened. Of course there was not. She had known, the moment the guards found her with moonroot staining her hands, that the trap had been built before she stepped into it. But knowing a snare did not mean you could escape once the teeth closed. Kaelen's eyes moved to Orvain. You deny sending her? I deny using a wolfless maid as royal medicine, Orvain said. I may be old, your majesty, but not careless. The word wolfless landed as it always did, not as description, as sentence. Elara had been born into a pack where a child's first inner growl was celebrated before their first steps. At 5, pups dreamed of running on 4 paws. At 8, they carried their first scent. By 12, even weak wolves showed in fever, anger, fear, or moonlight. Elara had shown nothing. No wolf. No scent. No beast shadow. No moon fever. No answering growl. Her mother had waited 3 winters past hope before she stopped placing Elara's hand over her own chest and saying, Listen harder. At 15, the pack stopped calling Elara late blooming. At 16, they called her empty. By 18, the palace had taken her as debt service because wolfless hands could still scrub floors. Now the court was ready to believe that what had no wolf might poison one. Orvain lifted the bone chalice from the altar. A hush fell. The chalice looked too light in his hands, too clean for what it had done. Moonlight trembled inside the bowl like trapped milk. If Elara Venn carries cursed blood, Orvain said, the chalice will blacken before the court. If she poisoned the royal beast soul, the moonlight will expose her. Elara looked at the chalice, then at Kaelen's wolf shadow. The shadow was staring at her again, not with hatred, with fear. A terrible, impossible fear that made no sense coming from a royal wolf. Kaelen descended 1 step from the throne. If she is innocent, Orvain bowed his head. Then the chalice remains silver. And if the curse is not hers? The question sliced through the hall. Orvain paused, only briefly, but Elara saw it. So did Kaelen. Then the healer smiled with practiced sorrow. The chalice judges the blood that drinks. A perfect answer, and not an answer at all. 2 guards seized Elara's arms. The silver chains around her wrists tightened as they dragged her toward the altar. She did not fight them. Fighting would only make the court hungrier, but she did not lower her head either. Kaelen watched her. The wolf shadow behind him had begun to shake. Orvain held the chalice toward her. Drink, girl. Elara stared at the moonlit liquid. Every story she had heard about the Bone Chalice ended with screams, black veins, and bodies carried out before dawn. Her own blood sounded too loud in her ears. Her hands trembled once, then steadied. If the court wanted terror, it would have to imagine it. She lifted the chalice. The bone was warm. That was the first wrong thing. The second was the whisper that rose from inside it. Not aloud. Inside her chest. Little Chalice-Blood. Not the last drop. Elara Venn. Orvain's eyes narrowed. Drink, he repeated. Elara looked at him. You are afraid of what it will show. The court went silent. Orvain's face hardened. I am afraid of what cursed blood does when it learns to speak. Before Elara could answer, one guard shoved the base of the chalice upward. Moonlight touched her lips. She swallowed. The bone chalice filled with silver fire. Not black, not poison. Silver. Brighter than the moon above. Gasps tore through the hall. Kaelen staggered as if the light had struck him in the chest. His wolf shadow exploded upward behind him, no longer thin and trembling but massive, wild and half-formed in silver flame. The beast threw back its head and howled through the Alpha King's body. Kaelen collapsed to one knee. Elara nearly dropped the chalice. The silver light inside it rose higher, filling the bowl again though she had swallowed. Her throat burned, not with pain, with hunger. The chalice wanted her to drink more. Not to punish her, to empty him. Orvain took one step back. For the first time, the healer looked afraid. The royal wolf shadow lunged toward Elara. Chains of black curse light wrapped around its ribs, but it did not attack. It begged. Through Kaelen's clenched teeth, in a voice that was half man, half dying beast, the Alpha King said, Do not swallow the final drop. The Moonbone Hall did not understand mercy when it heard it. It only understood power. So when the Alpha King collapsed to one knee and his dying wolf begged through his mouth, the court did not move to help him. They recoiled from Elara instead. The bone chalice burned silver in her hands, so bright the dark runes around its rim vanished beneath the light. The moonlit liquid inside rose higher, though she had already swallowed. It trembled at the lip of the bowl like a living thing desperate to enter her mouth. Elara's throat ached with a hunger that was not hers. Not to punish her, to empty him. Kaelen's fingers dug into the black stone floor. His breath came harsh and uneven, every inhale dragging a low growl through his chest. Behind him, the royal wolf shadow writhed against chains of black curse light wrapped around its ribs, throat, and massive forelegs. The beast was enormous now, filling half the wall behind the throne, silver fire bleeding through its dark fur like moonlight trapped under skin. Do not swallow the final drop. Kaelen rasped again. This time, the voice was more wolf than man. High Healer Orvain stepped forward. Take the chalice from her. No one moved. The guards who had dragged Elara to the altar stared at the silver fire with the terror of men who had expected to hold a criminal and found themselves holding a storm. Orvain's eyes cut to them. Now, one guard reached for Elara's wrist. The royal wolf shadow snapped its head toward him. The guard froze. The beast did not move from the wall, did not break free, did not even bare its teeth fully. Yet the warning in its silver-lit eyes was enough to make the guard step back, as if a blade had touched his throat. The court saw. Whispers rose at once. The king's wolf protects her. No, it fears her. She did something to him. Elara's hands trembled around the chalice. She wanted to set it down, but the bone stem had warmed against her palms and seemed to cling there. The silver light traveled beneath her skin in thin veins, up her wrists, along her arms, toward her chest. For one terrifying heartbeat, she felt something inside Kaelen. Not his thoughts, not his heart, his curse. It was black and cold, and tangled around the beast soul like roots around a buried animal. It smelled of moonroot, old blood, and winter water. But beneath it, deeper than pain, she felt a memory of teeth closing gently around a child's wrist, not to harm, but to pull her away from fire. Elara gasped. The chalice pulsed. Kaelen's head snapped up. Their eyes met across the hall. He had felt the memory, too. Orvain saw the look between them, and moved faster than his age should have allowed. He seized Elara's shoulder and forced the chalice higher. "Finish the judgment," Kaelen snarled. Every wolf in the hall flinched. Elara fought the healer's grip, but Orvain pressed 2 fingers beneath her jaw with practiced precision. Pain shot through her throat, forcing her mouth open. The final drop trembled on the rim. Kaelen tried to rise. The black chains around his wolf shadow tightened, and he collapsed again. One hand pressed to his chest. The beast behind him howled, but the howl broke halfway, strangled by curse light. "Elara," Kaelen said. It was the first time he had spoken her name. Not girl, not accused. Elara. The drop touched her lower lip. Then the Bone Chalice spoke inside her again. "Little Chalice-Blood. Choose what you drink. Not all hunger is yours." Elara stopped fighting. Orvain mistook stillness for surrender. She let the final drop rest on her tongue. The hall held its breath. Then she spat it onto the black stone floor. Silver fire hit the bone-white vein running through the floor and raced outward in a circle. The court cried out as moonlight flashed beneath every noble's feet. The silver ring passed through wolves, guards, healers, and lords without burning them, but when it reached Orvain, it turned black, only for a heartbeat. But everyone saw. The healer stepped back. Too late. A stain bloomed across the silver bone pattern beneath him, dark as rot. Kaelen's gaze lifted slowly. "What was that?" he asked. Orvain's face smoothed almost instantly. "A desperate trick. She rejected the chalice, my king. That alone proves corruption." "No," Elara said. Her voice shook, but it carried. "The chalice told me to choose what I drink." The court stared at her. Someone laughed once, nervous and sharp. "Relics do not speak to wolfless girls," the Bone Chalice answered. Its silver fire rose in a thin column and formed words above the bowl. Old moon script no servant should have been able to read, but Elara could. Her mouth went dry. Kaelen, still kneeling, read it too. His expression changed. "What does it say?" Orvain demanded. Elara looked at the glowing letters, then at the healer. "It says the curse did not enter him through my blood." The silver letters shifted. A second line formed. This one made the wolf shadow behind Kaelen go utterly still. Elara read it aloud, each word cutting through the hall. It entered him through a healer's hand. The Moonbone Hall erupted. Orvain lifted both hands, not in fear, but outrage. "Blasphemy! The chalice has been corrupted by forbidden blood. She is chalice. Blood." He said the last word like a curse. The reaction was immediate. Several elder wolves stood from their seats. A noblewoman covered her mouth. A commander whispered a prayer under his breath. Even the guards moved back from Elara, as if a new danger had replaced the old accusation. Chalice-Blood. Elara had never heard the term spoken, except in old kitchen stories. A dead line. A forbidden line. Girls born with empty wolves and silver throats, said to drink curses from beast souls until their own bodies broke. Some called them healers. Most called them abominations because they could reveal who had poisoned what kings preferred to hide. Kaelen pushed himself upright. Barely. His eyes were fixed on Orvain now. "You knew what she was." Orvain's expression hardened. "I knew what her blood could become if awakened." "And you framed her before the court?" "I protected your wolf from a girl bred to consume royal beasts." The wolf shadow slammed one massive paw against the wall. Stone cracked. Kaelen's voice dropped. "My wolf begged her not to finish, because beasts are sentimental when dying." Elara looked at the chained shadow. The royal wolf was still staring at her. Recognized me, she thought. Before the chalice. Before the court. Before the silver fire. It knew me. The thought terrified her more than Orvain's accusation. Then the silver light in the chalice dimmed. The bowl emptied at last. And from the black stain beneath Orvain's feet, a thin root of darkness crawled across the floor toward Kaelen's wolf shadow. Not dead, not exposed. Returning. Elara moved before anyone could stop her. She stepped between the curse root and the Alpha King. The Bone Chalice flared in her hands. Kaelen's wolf shadow lunged toward her, not to attack, but to shield her from what was coming. The black root struck Elara's bare foot. Cold shot through her blood, and somewhere inside her empty chest, something that had never been a wolf opened its eyes. The cold entered Elara through the sole of her foot. It did not feel like poison at first. It felt like memory. Winter water, moonless trees, a child's breath breaking in the dark, teeth closing gently around her wrist, pulling her backward just before something black and shining spilled across the snow where she had been standing. Then pain came. Elara cried out and dropped to one knee, still clutching the Bone Chalice. The black root of curse light wrapped around her ankle, thin as a vein, cold as buried iron. It tried to climb. Kaelen's wolf shadow slammed against the wall, with a roar that shook dust from the moon terraces. The curse root recoiled from the sound, but did not release her. High Healer Orvain's face had gone pale beneath the moonlight. Do not let her touch the king. No one moved fast enough. Kaelen staggered toward Elara, one hand pressed to his chest, the other reaching for her. His body looked ready to collapse, but his eyes were fixed on the black root around her foot, with a terror too old to belong to this moment alone. "Elara," he said, "do not drink it." She wanted to answer that she was not drinking anything. Then the Bone Chalice filled again. Not with moonlight, with shadow. The black curse pulled from her ankle into the bowl in thin threads, turning the bone rim silver where it passed. Elara's throat tightened. The chalice wanted to lift itself to her mouth. Her hands strained against it, knuckles whitening. The court backed away. She is drawing it out. She is feeding. She will kill him. Orvain seized the fear before it scattered. You see? Chalice. Blood consumes beast, souls. She stood between curse and king because it recognized its own kind. Elara could barely hear him. Inside her chest, something had opened its eyes. Not a wolf. She knew that with terrible certainty. A wolf would have growled. This thing listened. It had no fur, no claws, no beast shape pressing against her ribs. It was a hollow silver vessel, deep and ancient, rimmed with moonlight, waiting beneath the place where her wolf should have been. All her life, she had thought the emptiness inside her meant she lacked something everyone else had. Now she understood the emptiness had been made to hold poison. The thought made her stomach turn. Kaelen reached her. The royal wolf shadow leaned over them from the wall, half protective, half frantic, black curse chains cutting into its ribs. For one breath, man and wolf looked at her with the same fear. Not fear of her, fear for her. That almost broke her more than the pain. Kaelen crouched before her, breathing hard. Give me the chalice. Elara shook her head. It will go back into you. Then let it. No. The answer came out before she could make it careful. The court heard. Kaelen heard too. His expression shifted. Something dangerous and unguarded flashing beneath the king. He was used to being obeyed, used to people stepping aside when his pain became inconvenient. Elara had just refused him while kneeling with a curse around her bones. You do not know what it will do to you, he said. I know what it is doing to you. His jaw tightened. Orvain stepped closer, voice raised for the court. Enough. Separate them. The girl has admitted intent to draw royal curse into her blood. Elara looked up at him through the silver-black light. I admitted nothing. You are holding the chalice. You made me. The words landed harder than she expected. Several eyes turned toward the healer. Orvain's mouth thinned. I brought a criminal to judgment. No, Elara said, forcing herself upright, though the curse root dug deeper into her foot. You brought a cup to a girl you knew could read it. A hush spread. Kaelen looked from Elara to Orvain. The Alpha King's voice dropped. How long have you known what she is? Orvain did not answer. The bone chalice answered for him. Its silver-black surface rippled, and a reflection rose inside the bowl. Not Elara's face. Not Kaelen's. A room of white stone. A younger Orvain standing beside a cradle. A woman crying. A child with silver light under her tongue. Black moonroot blooming in a glass dish. Elara stopped breathing. The woman in the reflection had her eyes. Her mother. Orvain's hand shot toward the chalice. Kaelen caught his wrist. The hall froze. The Alpha King's grip looked weak from sickness, but the sound of Orvain's bone shifting under his fingers said otherwise. "No more touching relics," Kaelen said. Orvain's face twisted. "You do not understand what she can do." "Then speak clearly." The old healer leaned closer, voice low enough that only those near the altar heard, but every word cut. "She can drink the curse from your wolf. She can also drink the wolf with it." Kaelen's eyes flicked to Elara. For one breath, suspicion returned. It hurt more than she wanted it to. Then his wolf shadow snarled so violently the wall behind it cracked. Kaelen flinched, as if the sound had struck him inside the skull. The beast knew. It trusted her. Or it remembered something he did not. The chalice vision changed. The cradle vanished. Snow appeared. A small girl running barefoot through a winter courtyard. Elara, younger, no more than 6. Behind her, black moonroot smoke poured from a broken vial. The curse flew toward her like a living wound. Then a massive black wolf leapt between them. Not fully grown, not yet King's shadow. Younger, fierce, terrified. Kaelen's wolf. It opened its jaws and swallowed the curse meant for the child. The vision shattered. The hall stood silent. Elara looked at Kaelen. His face had gone white. "You knew me," she whispered. Kaelen shook his head once, but the denial had no strength. "I do not remember that." Orvain pulled against the king's grip. "Because beasts have instincts men are better without." Elara understood then. The curse inside Kaelen's wolf had not begun as his. It had been meant for her, and his wolf had taken it. The black root around her ankle tightened, as if furious at being recognized. The chalice rose toward her mouth again, dragging her hands with it. Kaelen released Orvain and caught the cup before it touched her lips. Silver fire burst between their fingers. The royal wolf shadow howled. And from the chalice, in a child's voice Elara barely remembered, came one sentence. "He saved me before he ever knew my name. He saved me before he ever knew my name." The child's voice faded from the bone chalice, but the sentence stayed in the moonbone hall like a blade left standing in the floor. No one moved. Elara stared at Kaelen's hand over hers, both of them gripping the chalice, silver fire burning between their fingers. His skin should have scorched, hers should have split. Instead, the light wrapped around them both, thin and bright as winter thread, joining pain to memory. Kaelen looked at the chalice as if it had opened a grave beneath him. "I do not remember," he said. His voice was low. Not denial now. Grief. The wolf shadow behind him lowered its massive head. Black chains still cut into its ribs, but its silver eyes were fixed on Elara with a desperate, almost guilty tenderness. Elara's throat tightened. All her life, she had been told she was empty. No wolf. No scent. No beast worth naming. Yet somewhere in her forgotten childhood, the Alpha King's wolf had seen danger coming for her and taken it into itself. Not by command. Not by law. By choice. High Healer Orvain broke the silence with a hard clap of his staff against the floor. "Sentimental relic tricks," he said. "The chalice feeds on court fear and reflects whatever image will weaken judgment." Kaelen turned his head. The hall seemed to darken around him. "You said beasts have instincts men are better without." Orvain's mouth tightened. Kaelen released the chalice with one hand and stepped toward him. The movement cost him. Elara saw the brief shudder in his shoulders, the way the curse root tugged from her ankle toward his wolf shadow. trying to return to its old host. Still, he stood. "What instinct were you afraid I would remember?" Kaelen asked. Orvain lifted his chin. "The instinct that ruins kings. Attachment. Mercy. Beast loyalty to a girl, bred from a forbidden line." A murmur passed through the court. Chalice-Blood. Forbidden line. Elara felt the words settle over her again, heavier than chains. Accusation had changed shape. They no longer wanted her guilty because she was wolfless. They wanted her guilty because she was not empty after all. The bone chalice pulsed in her hands. The black curse pooled inside it, thick and restless. It wanted to rise. It wanted her mouth. It wanted to go somewhere, become someone's burden. Her chest answered with that strange inner vessel, hollow and silver, ready to receive what no body should hold. She lowered the chalice slightly. Kaelen noticed at once. "Elara, I am not drinking. You almost did. Because it keeps pulling." "Then set it down." She looked at the silver-black liquid. "If I set it down, the curse goes back to your wolf." The royal wolf shadow gave a low growl. Not warning. Agreement. Kaelen's face tightened, as if the beast's answer had hurt him. Orvain seized the moment. "There, you see? She speaks for your wolf now. First, she drinks from the chalice, then she claims to understand your beast. This is how Chalice-Blood works. It makes kings doubt their own souls." Elara looked at him. "You are afraid of what the wolf remembers. I am afraid of what your blood does to wolves." "No," she said, and the quietness of her own voice surprised her. "You are afraid of what it removes." The chalice flashed. Silver light rippled across the court floor, not in a circle this time, but in narrow streams. Each stream slid toward the terraces, touching the boots of healers in white, council lords in silver cloaks, guards near the throne. Most remained pale. One turned gray at the edge. Another flickered black, then vanished before anyone could point. Elara saw. So did Kaelen. So did Orvain. The healer raised his staff. Enough. The white-robed healers behind him moved as one. They formed a half-circle around the altar, each drawing a narrow bone knife from beneath their sleeves. The blades were not for battle. They were ritual knives, the kind used to open veins during moon rites. Kaelen's wolf shadow snarled. The healers flinched, but did not retreat. Orvain's voice rose. "By ancient law, a discovered chalice. Blood must be sealed before she drinks a royal beast whole." Kaelen's eyes went cold. "Touch her and I will break the law with your bones." The court sucked in a breath. For the first time, the Alpha King had not asked. He had chosen a side. But Elara heard the danger beneath it. Orvain heard it too. The healer wanted Kaelen furious. A sick king threatening sacred healers over a wolfless girl would make fear easy to sell. Elara stepped in front of Kaelen before he could move farther. The curse root around her ankle burned black. Kaelen caught her arm. "Do not stand between me and knives." She looked at his hand on her. He released her immediately. That small restraint struck her harder than his threat to the healers. "I am not standing between you and knives," she said. "I am standing between him and the story he wants." Orvain's eyes narrowed. Elara lifted the bone chalice. The hall tensed. She did not drink. She turned the bowl toward the court. "Show them the first hand," she whispered. The chalice went still. Then the silver-black liquid cleared. A new vision rose inside it. A moonlit healing chamber. Kaelen, younger by years, unconscious on a stone bed, sweat shining across his brow. His wolf shadow paced behind him, restless and wounded, but not yet dying. Orvain stood beside the bed with a vial of black moonroot in one hand. A second figure stood beside him, a woman in a silver council veil. The court leaned forward. The woman lifted the veil. Lady Morel, the king's betrothed in all but ceremony. Gasps broke across the hall. Morel sat among the noble terraces now, dressed in pale blue silk, her face frozen in perfect shock. In the vision, she looked at Kaelen's unconscious body and whispered, "If the beast wakes fully, he will never take the council's chosen mate." Orvain poured moonroot into a silver bowl. Then, "We make sure his wolf remembers pain whenever it reaches for her." The vision flickered. Elara almost dropped the chalice. Here. The word in Morel's mouth had not meant the noble woman. It had meant a child in a winter courtyard. It had meant Elara. Kaelen turned slowly toward the terrace where Lady Morel sat. The wolf shadow behind him rose to its full height, chains straining. Marilee's lips parted. Orvain shouted, "Break the chalice!" One healer threw his ritual knife. Kaelen moved, but the curse pulled him back. The knife spun toward Elara's hands. Before it struck, the bone chalice opened like a flower of bone. Silver fire swallowed the blade. Then the chalice spoke, in a voice older than the hall. Second hand revealed, "The mate lie begins. The mate lie begins." The words burned above the bone chalice in silver script, bright enough for every wolf in the Moonbone Hall to read. For a moment, Lady Morel did not move. She sat among the noble terraces like a portrait of innocence carved from ice, pale blue silk falling perfectly around her, moonstones at her throat, silver blonde hair braided with the care of someone who had never once been dragged by chains across a court floor. Her face held shock, but it was too clean, too measured, too late. Elara saw it. Kaelen saw it. His wolf shadow saw it most clearly. The beast rose behind him, chains of black curse light straining until cracks opened along the wall. Its silver eyes fixed on Morel, not with confusion, but with recognition sharpened into hatred. Morel stood slowly. "My king, the relic lies." No one breathed. Kaelen turned toward her fully. "Does it?" Her lashes trembled. "You know me. I know the woman my council chose." Pain flickered across Morel's face, but beneath it lived calculation. "The council chose me because your wolf was dying, because your court needed stability, because every pack in the north was waiting for weakness." Orvain seized the thread at once. "She speaks truth. The king's beast, sickness placed the realm at risk. Lady Morel has served the crown faithfully through uncertainty." The bone chalice pulsed in Elara's hands. The silver-black liquid inside it had begun to spin. Elara felt the curse root at her ankle tug toward Kaelen again. The blackness wanted its old home. It wanted the dying beast. It wanted the lie restored before too many eyes learned how to see. She gripped the chalice harder. Kaelen took one step toward Morella. His body still shook from the curse, but his voice remained dangerously calm. The vision said, "My wolf was made to remember pain whenever it reached for her." Morel's gaze flicked to Elara. A small mistake. The hall caught it. Elara caught it too, and the look cut through her more sharply than any insult. Morel did not see a woman. She saw an old inconvenience that had survived childhood. Kaelen's face changed. "Her?" he said. Morel's mouth tightened. "A wolfless servant cannot be your concern." The wolf shadow lunged so violently that one black chain snapped from its ribs. The sound cracked through the hall like a tree splitting in winter. Kaelen staggered, hand flying to his chest, but he did not look away from Morel. Elara felt the snapped chain inside the chalice. A rush of black pain rose into the bowl, and with it came another memory. Snow, a courtyard, a little girl with bare hands, a young royal wolf standing between her and death, then another image layered over it. Morel, as a child, older than Elara by several years, watching from a balcony while Orvain sealed the winter courtyard afterward. She had seen the wolf take the curse. She had known. Elara's breath caught. "You were there," she whispered. Morel's eyes sharpened. "Careful." The warning was soft, but it found every old servant instinct in Elara's bones. Careful meant lower your head. Careful meant survive by disappearing. Careful meant people like Morel could stand near murder and call it manners. Elara lifted the chalice instead. "Show them." Orvain moved. "Do not let her." Kaelen's growl stopped him. The Alpha King did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The half-freed wolf shadow behind him bared its teeth, and every healer in white froze. The chalice showed the memory. The court watched young Morel stand above the winter courtyard, wrapped in white fur, her eyes wide as Kaelen's wolf swallowed the black curse meant for Elara. They watched her turn to Orvain afterward and ask, "Will he remember the girl?" They watched Orvain answer, "Not, if we teach the wolf pain before it learns longing." A terrible silence followed. Morel's face went bloodless. Kaelen stared at the vision, as if it had carved through him. "Longing," he repeated. Orvain's jaw hardened. Elara did not understand at first. Then the wolf shadow lowered its head toward her, chains trembling, and the emptiness in her chest answered with a silver ache. Not romance. Not yet. Something older than a courtship. Recognition before naming. A bond wounded before it had been allowed to become a bond. Morel saw the realization moving through the hall and struck first. "You think that proves love?" she said, voice rising. "A beast shielding a child? Wolves guard weak things. That is instinct, not destiny." Elara flinched despite herself. "Weak things." Kaelen looked at her, and the restraint in his face nearly broke. But Morel turned to the court. "Faster now, more desperate. If anything, this proves the danger. The king's wolf attached itself to a wolfless girl before he was old enough to govern the beast. Orvain contained the damage. I carried the burden of becoming his chosen mate, while his wolf rotted over a childhood accident." "A curse," Elara said. Morel's eyes flashed. "A curse your blood invited." The bone chalice darkened at the rim. Kaelen saw it. "That is enough." "No," Elara said. The word surprised him. She looked at Morel, then at Orvain, then at the court that had spent years deciding absence meant guilt. Let her finish. Morel smiled faintly, believing she had regained ground. Alara's throat burned around the next words. "Let the chalice hear every lie." The bone chalice went still. A thin silver ring appeared around Morel's feet. She looked down. For the first time, real fear crossed her face. Orvain whispered, "Do not answer another word." But the court had heard enough silence from healers. Kaelen turned toward Morel. "Who ordered the first curse?" Morel's lips parted. The silver ring tightened. She tried not to speak. The effort twisted her face. The chalice did not force truth from her mind. It did something worse. It made lies visible. Black veins crept up from the floor around her shoes. The court gasped. Morel looked at Orvain with hatred. "You said the chalice could not judge me unless I drank." Orvain closed his eyes. Too late. Kaelen's wolf shadow gave a low, broken growl. Elara understood then. The bone chalice was no longer only judging blood. It was judging the curse, and everyone who had fed it. Morel's voice came out then. "The council ordered it." Kaelen went very still. "Which council?" No one in the hall moved. Morel swallowed. The black veins climbed to her hem. "The Moonbone Council," she whispered. After the old seer said the Alpha King's true bond would come from a girl with no wolf. The words tore through the hall. Alara's hands went numb around the chalice. Kaelen looked at her, as if the world had shifted beneath both their feet. True bond. Girl with no wolf. The curse root around Alara's ankle suddenly tightened, and the chalice filled to the brim with blackness. Orvain raised his staff and shouted a command in the old healer tongue. Every silver chain in the hall snapped toward Elara. Kala Lunget. The wolf shadow lunged with him, but the chains wrapped around Elara first, dragging the bone chalice toward her mouth. Orvain's voice rang above the chaos. "If the chalice. Blood drinks the whole curse. The bond dies with her." The final drop rose again. Black, this time. And Kaelen's wolf screamed her name. The black drop rose from the bone chalice, like a living eye. Elara could not pull away. Silver chains had wrapped around her wrists, her arms, her throat, even the fingers gripping the chalice. They were not guard chains. They had come from the hall itself, from the old moonlit grooves beneath the floor, from the ancient law Orvain had awakened with a healer's command. Each link was cold enough to numb skin and sharp enough to remember blood. The chalice tilted toward her mouth. Kaelen's wolf screamed her name again, Elara. It came through the Alpha King's body and the wolf shadow at once, a broken sound that made every wolf in the Moonbone Hall lower its head. The court no longer looked entertained. They looked afraid. True bond. Girl with no wolf. The words Morel had spoken still hung above them like a blade waiting to fall. Elara felt them more than she understood them. She had spent her life being defined by absence. No wolf, no scent, no beast shadow. Now the court stared as if the emptiness in her chest had been a door they should have killed before it opened. The black drop touched her lip. Cold spread through her teeth. Kaelen moved. Not like a king crossing a hall, like a wounded animal breaking its own trap. The black curse chains around his wolf shadow snapped tight as he lunged. His body stumbled, but he did not stop. One chain tore through the shadow's shoulder, another cut across its throat. Blood did not fall from the shadow, but silver fire did, spilling down the wall like moonlit rain. Orvain raised his staff. Hold him. 3 royal guards stepped forward. Kaelen did not look at them. His wolf shadow did. The guards froze where they stood. Only Merle moved. She came down from the terrace, with her pale skirts gathered in one hand, the black veins around her hem hidden beneath silk. Kaelen, listen to him. If she drinks, the curse leaves your wolf. If she dies, the bond dies before it can ruin you. The word ruin struck Elara harder than the chains. Was that all she was? A threat with a face. A bond that needed to die before it became inconvenient. The chalice pressed harder. The black drop slid onto her tongue. Pain opened through her body. Not like before. Not memory. Not silver ache. This was old poison. It tasted of betrayal, royal blood, healer's salt, and a child's fear buried under years of someone else's suffering. It entered the hollow vessel inside her chest and slammed against the silver emptiness waiting there. Elara heard voices, not aloud, inside the curse. Orvain, younger. The girl must not awaken. Morel frightened. If his wolf wants her, make it hate-reaching. Another voice, older and masked by ritual. The chalice. Bloodline ends tonight. The curse was not one spell. It was layered, built over years, fed every time Kaelen's wolf tried to remember her and was punished for it. Elara's knees buckled. The chains held her upright. Kaelen reached the altar. His hand closed around the chalice. Black fire climbed his fingers instantly. Elara saw his jaw clench, saw the curse enter the markless skin of his palm and try to drag itself home. No, she choked. He looked at her across the rim of the cup. There was no command in his face now. No throne. No court. Only a man whose wolf had carried her death for years and was ready to do it again. You do not owe me your body, he said. The words tore through the spell more cleanly than any blade. The chalice trembled. Orvain's expression changed. Because the ancient law had heard him, Elara understood then. Chalice. Blood did not only drink curses, it answered consent. Choice. Burden freely taken or falsely forced. That was why Orvain had needed chains. That was why he had framed her before the court. He needed her death to look like judgment, not theft. She swallowed the black drop. Kaelen's eyes widened in horror, but Elara did not let it go down into the hollow vessel, waiting to consume it. She held it, between tongue and throat, between curse and blood, between what had been forced and what she chose. The bone chalice flared silver. The chains around her wrists cracked. Elara's voice came out rough and shaking. "Show the first order." The chalice obeyed. Moonlight exploded upward, and the entire hall vanished into vision. A council chamber beneath the palace. Orvain standing before 12 masked elders, Lady Morel's father among them. A cradle at the center of the room. Not a child's cradle, but a silver basin filled with moon water. Inside the water floated a drop of black curse. "The seer has named the danger," one elder said. "A wolfless chalice. Blood Girl will become the Alpha King's true bond. Through her, his wolf will be freed from council influence." Orvain looked younger then, but his eyes were the same. "Then we curse the girl." "No," said Morel's father. "If she dies too soon, the beast may still search for her. Curse her slowly, let her grow empty. Let the pack reject her before the bond can form." The vision shifted. A child, Elara, sleeping beneath a thin blanket, a healer's hand, lowering black moonroot smoke over her cradle. Then a young black wolf crashing through the window in a burst of snow and moonlight. Kaelen's wolf. Still not full grown, still wild, still barely more than instinct and fury. It took the curse into its jaws before it touched the child. The vision shattered. The Moonbone Hall returned. Every eye turned to Orvain. The healer stood perfectly still. Kaelen's hand remained on the chalice, black fire burning his skin. His wolf shadow was no longer screaming. It was growling. Low. Ruinus. Elara spat the black drop back into the chalice. This time, the darkness did not rise again. It froze. The silver chains around her broke apart and fell to the floor like dead snakes. Orvain stepped back. "She has manipulated the relic." "No," Kaelen said. His voice was quiet. The hall trembled anyway. "You tried to murder a child. My wolf saved her. Then you poisoned him for years to punish the bond you failed to kill." Morel's face twisted. "You cannot choose her over the realm." Kaelen looked at Elara. The court waited for him to deny it, to call her useful, to say he was protecting evidence, not a bond, to keep some part of the old lie standing. Instead, the Alpha King took the Bone Chalice from Elara's shaking hands and set it on the altar between them. Then he knelt, not from weakness this time, by choice, before a wolfless girl, before the court, before his dying wolf. "I do not know what this bond is yet," he said, voice rough enough to wound. "But I know who tried to kill it." The wolf shadow bowed its massive head behind him, and the Bone Chalice filled again this time, with the names of everyone who had helped poison the royal beast. The names did not rise from the Bone Chalice like ink. They rose like verdicts. Silver letters burned around the inside of the pale bowl, each name forming slowly enough for the whole Moonbone Hall to read and fear what came next. High Healer Orvain. Lady Merrill Voss. Lord Cadrin Voss. Healer Sereth. Healer Moira. Ilda Thorn. The list circled the chalice again and again, bright against the frozen black drop that Elara had refused to swallow. No one laughed now. No one whispered that wolfless girls could not matter. The court watched the sacred relic name its own judges, and the silence that followed was uglier than panic. Kaelen remained on one knee before Elara, not from weakness anymore, but from choice. His burned hand rested on the altar near the chalice. Behind him, his royal wolf shadow lowered its massive head, black curse chains still cutting into its ribs, silver fire bleeding through one broken link. Orvain's face had gone still, too still. A guilty man panicked. A dangerous man calculated. "My king," he said, voice soft with practiced grief. "The chalice has named those who handled the curse. It has not named murderers." Elara stared at him, handless, as if the poison in Kaelen's wolf had been a medical instrument, as if a child's death curse could become harmless because a healer held it with clean hands. Kaelen rose slowly. The court drew back as his shadow climbed the wall behind him. "You will explain every name," he said. Orvain bowed his head. "Gladly." The Moonbone Council intervened because prophecy demanded intervention. A true bond between the Alpha King and a Chalice, Blood Girl, would have endangered the royal wolf. We did not create danger. We contained it. Morel stepped down from the terrace, pale but composed. You must understand, Kaelen. The council believed your wolf would be consumed by her blood. Her blood? Kaelen's voice was very quiet. Morel looked at Elara, and for one heartbeat hatred broke through all her beauty. Chalice. Blood girls were never mates. They were endings. They drank curses, yes, but they also drank the beast if the bond ran too deep. Elara felt the court turn toward her again. There it was, the old shape returning. Not thief now, not poisoner. Monster. The bone chalice pulsed in her hands, but she did not lift it. She would not let them make every answer look like magic. Some truths needed only a voice. If I was so dangerous, Elara said, why curse me as a child? Marilla's lips parted. Orvain's eyes cut toward her. Too late. The chalice heard the question. Silver fire rose from the bowl and spilled across the floor in a long, shining line. It did not form a vision this time. It formed a circle around Morel's feet, then another around Orvain's. The court gasped as thin black veins appeared inside both circles. The relic did not force confession. It made lies visible. Kaelen looked at Morel. Answer. She swallowed. The seer said your wolf would recognize her. Recognize her as what? Morel's hands curled into her blue silk skirts. The bond. The word moved through the hall like a winter blade. Elara's breath stopped, not because she wanted the word, not because she understood it, but because Kaelen's wolf shadow lifted its head at the sound, and the emptiness inside her chest answered with a silver ache so old it felt like grief remembered by blood. Kaelen did not look away from Morel. So you cursed a child to prevent my wolf from finding her. I was a child too, Morel said, and for the first time her voice shook. I was told I would be queen. I was told your beast. Sickness would pass. I waited years beside you while your wolf turned toward a girl with no wolf, no rank, no name worth recording. Elara flinched. Kaelen saw it. Something in his expression hardened, not against her, but for her. You were wrong, he said. Morel laughed once, sharp and wounded. Was I? Look at you. On your knees before her after one night. Your wolf bleeding itself apart because she touched a cup. No, Elara said. Everyone turned. She looked at the chalice, at the black drop frozen inside it, then at the wolf shadow behind Kaelen. He was bleeding long before tonight, the chalice answered. A vision opened above the altar. Young Kaelen asleep in a healing chamber, sweat on his brow. His wolf, shadow pacing behind him, snarling toward a sealed door. Orvain standing beside the bed, with a silver bowl of black moonroot. Morel's father placing a hand on his shoulder. Each time the beast reaches for the girl, Lord Cadron said in the vision, make the memory hurt. Orvain dipped his fingers into the bowl. And the girl? Let the pack reject her first. A bond no one believes in is easier to bury. The vision shifted. Elara, as a child, in snow. The curse rushing toward her. Kaelen's young wolf leaping between them and swallowing the darkness before it touched her. Then another memory. Orvain pressing moonroot into Kaelen's chest while the wolf thrashed in agony. Another. Morel watching from the doorway, crying, but not stopping him. Another. Elara at 16, standing in a trial circle as elders declared her empty, while far away Kaelen's wolf howled hard enough to crack the healing room glass. The vision vanished. No one spoke. Kaelen looked as if every year of his life had been rearranged into a weapon. Elara could barely breathe. She had thought being wolfless meant no beast had ever wanted her. All along, one had been punished for remembering her. Orvain straightened. You see sentiment. I see proof. His wolf chose her over survival. A king cannot be ruled by a beast that would die for a cursed girl. Kaelen turned toward him. My wolf chose to save a child, and doomed itself. No, Elara said, the bone chalice glowing brighter in her hands. You doomed him because saving me proved you could not control him. The frozen black drop cracked. Silver light burst through it. The chalice lifted from Elara's hands and hovered over the altar. Around its rim, the names burned brighter, then began to change. Not names now. Charges. Child murder rite. False healing. Bond suppression. Royal beast poisoning. Forced curse transfer. The last charge appeared slowly, brighter than all the rest. Attempted sacrifice of Chalice-Blood heir. Orvain's mask finally broke. Elara Venn is not heir to anything, he snapped. The bone chalice rang. Every wolf in the hall lowered its head. Silver fire climbed Elara's arms, not consuming her, not claiming her, but revealing a mark beneath her skin, a pale crescent cup at the center of her wrist, hidden all her life under ordinary flesh. The court stared. Kaelen's wolf shadow bowed first. Then one wolf in the eastern terrace followed, then another. Not to a queen, not to a mate, to the bloodline that could name a curse without becoming it. Orvain stepped back. Kaelen stepped forward. This time he did not kneel. He stood beside Elara. If this court wants to call her dangerous, he said, then let it first answer why every dangerous truth tonight has come from her hands. The bone chalice filled with silver fire one last time. Inside it, a final vision began to form. Orvain, Morel, and the Moonbone Council standing over the first curse before it was sent toward a sleeping child. Elara looked at Kaelen. He looked back, wolf shadow burning behind him. Show them, he said, and the hall fell into the first night of the lie. The first night of the lie was colder than memory should have been. Moonbone Hall vanished beneath silver fire, and the court found itself standing inside a winter courtyard from 12 years before. Snow fell through a black sky. The palace walls rose tall and pale around them. Every noble, healer, guard, and servant became a witness trapped inside the vision, unable to touch, unable to interrupt, unable to look away. At the center of the courtyard slept a child, Elara. She was small enough to curl beneath a servant cloak, dark hair tangled around her face, one hand tucked under her cheek. No wolf shadow lay beside her. No scent mark glowed at her throat. No moon fever warmed her skin. Only a faint silver crescent rested beneath the flesh of her wrist. A Chalice-Blood mark, hidden, waiting. Around the courtyard stood the Moonbone Council. High Healer Orvain was younger then, his white hair still streaked with iron gray. Lady Morel stood on a balcony wrapped in white fur, a child herself, but old enough to understand that the adults below were afraid of the sleeping girl. Beside her stood Lord Cadron Voss, Meryl's father, his hand resting heavily on her shoulder. A masked seer stepped forward and pointed toward Elara. The royal wolf will know her. The words made the air tighten. Orvain looked toward the palace tower, where a young Kaelen slept beyond sight. He has not met her. The beast has. Morel's child face went pale. But I am promised to him. Lord Cadron squeezed her shoulder. You are promised to the crown. That is stronger than any beast's fancy. The seer's voice remained flat. Not this beast. Not this blood. If the Chalice-Blood girl lives unsealed, she will draw out what men hide inside royal wolves. No poisoned oath, no council leash, no false mate bond will survive her. The court in the present stirred inside the vision. Elara stared at the sleeping child she had been, and felt no memory of this night, only the ache of absence. Her life had been bent here while she slept through it. Kaelen stood beside her, silent and rigid. His wolf shadow behind him watched the young child in the snow with such grief that Elara could not look at it for long. Orvain lifted a small vial of black moonroot. We do not kill her, he said. Morel's father smiled. No. Killing leaves martyrs. Emptiness leaves servants. The words cut through Elara more cleanly than any blade. Emptiness leaves servants. That was what they had made of her. Not by accident. Not by fate. By design. Orvain poured the moonroot into a silver bowl. The liquid turned black, then opened like an eye. "This will seal the chalice, blood vessel," he said. "Her wolf will never rise. She has no wolf," the seer replied. "That is why she is dangerous. The space inside her was never meant for a beast. It was meant to hold and name corruption." Orvain's mouth thinned. "Then we make that space a grave." He stepped toward the sleeping child. A growl rolled through the courtyard. Every council member froze. From the palace, shadows came a young black wolf, larger than any ordinary pup, but not yet the monstrous royal beast the court feared. Its fur was dark as midnight. Its eyes burned silver. It limped slightly, as if it had broken loose from somewhere it was meant to stay. Young Kaelen's wolf. No man walked beside it. No command guided it. It went straight to the sleeping girl and stood over her. The beast lowered its head and sniffed her wrist. The silver crescent beneath her skin glowed. The wolf made a sound that was not a growl, a recognition. Morel gripped the balcony rail. "No." Lord Cadron's face hardened. "Do it now." Orvain flung the black moonroot curse toward the child. The young wolf lunged. It swallowed the darkness before it touched Elara. The courtyard exploded in silver and black. The child Elara woke only long enough to gasp as the wolf collapsed beside her, its body convulsing, black veins racing beneath its fur. It turned its head toward her and pushed her gently backward with its muzzle, away from the spilled curse, away from the council, away from death. Then healers seized the wolf with silver hooks. The child screamed, but no sound came out in the vision. No one had remembered her scream. Kaelen took one step forward, but the older vision could not be changed. Elara caught his arm before he could try. He looked down at her hand. She shook her head once. His jaw clenched, but he stayed. Together, they watched Orvain kneel beside the suffering wolf. "This can still serve us," Orvain said. The seer stepped back. "The beast took a curse meant for a chalice. Blood. It will not survive unchanged. Then we change what it remembers." Lord Cadron looked up at Morel. "You will be kind to the king. You will be patient. You will understand that his wolf's resistance is sickness, not rejection." Young Morel stared at the black wolf, writhing in the snow. "And the girl?" Orvain looked at Elara's sleeping child body with clinical disgust. "She will grow wolfless. Empty. Grateful for any place the palace gives her. If the beast reaches for her, pain will teach it not to." The vision shifted faster. Kaelen is a boy, waking with blood on his lips, asking why his wolf hurt. Orvain telling him royal beasts sometimes carried inherited sickness. Morel sitting beside him in pale silk, learning to look concerned when his wolf turned toward the servant quarters. Elara at 8, failing the scent trial. Elara at 12, standing alone while pups shifted around her. Elara at 16, hearing the word empty spoken like a final name. And each time Kaelen's wolf stirred, each time it tried to remember snow, wrist, silver crescent, girl, Orvain poured moonroot into the beast soul and called it healing. The vision ended. Moonbone Hall returned. No one spoke. Even Morel had no defense left. The Bone Chalice hovered above the altar, silver fire trembling around its rim. The list of names still burned inside it. Orvain stood beneath every charge, his healer's chain shining like a row of teeth. Kaelen looked at him. "You made my wolf's loyalty into sickness." Orvain's voice was stripped of softness now. "Your wolf's loyalty would have made you ungovernable, and that frightened you more than poison. It frightened anyone who understood what kings become when beasts choose love over law." The word love struck the hall too soon, too hard. Elara looked away first. Kaelen did not. His wolf shadow moved behind him, wounded and chained, but no longer ashamed. Orvain lifted both hands toward the court. Do not be moved by pretty pain. The facts remain. The curse is still in the royal wolf. The girl is still the original vessel. If she refuses to receive it, the Alpha King's beast dies. If she accepts it, she may become strong enough to command every cursed wolf in the kingdom. Either way, she is a danger. The court shifted. Fear was stubborn. It survived even truth. Elara stepped toward the Bone Chalice. Kaelen turned sharply. Elara! She met his eyes. He is still making the choice, death or death, because that is what the curse is. No. She looked into the chalice, at the frozen black drop, at the silver fire around it. That is what he needs us to believe. The chalice warmed. Inside her chest, the hollow silver vessel did not open to drink. It rang. Elara understood then. Chalice-Blood was not meant to be a grave for curses. It was meant to separate poison from the hand that poured it. She lifted the chalice. Orvain went still. For the first time, his fear had no mask. Elara turned the bowl toward him. I will not take what you made, she said. I will name it. The black drop rose from the chalice. Not toward her, toward Orvain. He stepped back. The silver circle beneath his feet closed like a trap, and the Bone Chalice spoke in the voice of the first royal wolf. Let the curse return to its maker. Let the curse return to its maker. The words did not sound like threat. They sounded like law older than the Moonbone Hall. The black drop lifted from the Bone Chalice and hovered above the altar, no larger than a tear, yet every wolf in the court backed away as if a blade had been drawn against its throat. Silver fire circled it, not consuming the darkness, only holding it in place so no one could pretend not to see what had been poured into a child's life and a king's wolf. High Healer Orvain stepped back. The silver circle beneath his feet moved with him. For the first time, the court watched the old healer fail to command the ground beneath him. This is forbidden, he said. Elara held the chalice with both hands. Her wrists still ached from chains. Her throat still carried the taste of the curse she had refused to swallow. But the hollow place inside her chest no longer felt like emptiness. It rang, steady and silver, not hungry for poison, not waiting to become someone else's grave. No, she said. This is what you were afraid Chalice-Blood could do. Orvain's face hardened. You know nothing of that bloodline. I know you tried to turn it into a cup. The Bone Chalice flared. The black drop drifted toward Orvain. He raised his staff and struck the floor. By healer's law, I reject false judgment. The drop stopped. For one terrible heartbeat, Elara thought the old rites would still protect him. That power would once again dress itself in law and walk away clean. Then Kaelen stepped beside her. His wolf shadow rose behind them, wounded, chained, enormous. Its silver eyes burned into Orvain. Healer's law exists to preserve life, Kaelen said, not to hide who poisoned it. The chalice answered his voice. The black drop moved again. Orvain's calm broke into fury. You would let her turn royal judgment against the office that kept you alive? Kaelen's mouth tightened. You did not keep me alive. You kept my wolf dying slowly enough to rule me. That struck the court harder than any vision, because it was not magic. It was the king, naming his own cage. Lady Morell took one step toward him, hands trembling at her sides. Kaelen, please. You think you are choosing freedom, but you are choosing a girl who can undo you. He looked at her. No hatred. That was worse. You helped make pain the only language my wolf knew when it reached for her. Morell's face twisted. I was told she would take everything. And so you took everything first? The black veins around Morell's feet spread again. She looked down in horror. The chalice had not forgotten her. Elara saw the fear in her and felt a strange ache beneath her anger. Morel had been molded by the same court that had named Elara empty. One girl had been lifted up as a chosen mate. One had been pushed down as a wolfless servant. Both had been used to keep a king from choosing anything freely. But Morel had stood beside the knife. Elara would not soften that. The black drop split in two. One half drifted toward Orvain, the other toward Mayrel. "No?" Mayrella whispered. The drop stopped before her lips. Not entering. Waiting. The Bone Chalice spoke again. "Name what you fed." Mayrella shook her head. The black veins climbed her gown. The court watched. Some with pity, some with disgust, some with the greedy hunger of people relieved judgment had turned elsewhere. Elara knew that hunger. She had lived under it. "Do not look away now," she said to the court. "You watched when they brought me in chains. Watch when the chalice asks the powerful to answer." No one moved. Mayrel's voice broke. "I fed fear." The black drop pulsed. "Fear of what?" Kaelen asked. Morel looked at him, and the last of her court mask cracked. "That your wolf would choose someone no council could use. That I would become nothing after being raised to belong beside you. That the realm would laugh at me for losing to a girl they called empty." Elara swallowed. The drop before Morel turned from black to gray. Not forgiven. Named. Then it moved to the floor and burned itself into a small dark mark beneath her feet. Orvain stared at it. "You fool," he hissed. Morel looked at him with sudden hatred. "You promised the curse would never answer me, and you believed poison could be loyal?" The words left his mouth before he could hide them. The Bone Chalice rang. The black half-drop before Orvain swelled. Kaelen's wolf shadow snarled, but Elara lifted one hand slightly. The beast stopped. It was a startling thing. Not obedience exactly, but trust. The court saw the Alpha King's wounded wolf answer the motion of a wolfless girl, and fear rippled through the terraces again. Elara did not let it shake her. "Name what you fed," she said to Orvain. The healer smiled. Even trapped, he found a way to look down at her. "A kingdom." The drop darkened. Elara's hand tightened around the chalice. "No." "A throne." Darker. "No." "A wolf too powerful." "For mercy." The drop shook. Kaelen went very still. Orvain's smile sharpened. "A beast that would have followed a servant girl into ruin. I fed pain to loyalty until loyalty learned to crawl." The black drop slammed into his chest. Orvain screamed. Not because the curse entered him, because it remembered him. Black veins spread beneath his white robes, but silver fire held them from reaching his heart. The chalice was not killing him. It was making his body carry the shape of what he had done. On the wall behind Kaelen, the curse chains around the royal wolf began to crack. One link fell, then another. Kaelen staggered. A hand braced against the altar, breath tearing from him. Elara reached for him, then stopped before touching. His eyes lifted to hers. "May I?" she asked. The words were small. The moment was not. He nodded once. Elara placed her free hand over his chest. The wolf shadow lowered its head behind them. Silver light moved from the chalice, through Elara's arm, into Kaelen, not as poison, not as cure forced upon him, but as witness. The remaining curse chains appeared in the air between them, each one tied to a named lie. Fear, control, false healing, bond suppression, child sacrifice. Elara read every word. Then she turned the chalice toward Orvain. "These are not his," she said. The chains snapped from the wolf shadow and flew toward the healer. Orvain tried to run. The silver circle held. The chains wrapped around him one by one, not around his throat, not around his hands, but around the healer's chain across his chest. Every wolf-tooth link cracked black. The Moonbone Hall erupted in howls. Not from pain. Release. Kaelen's wolf shadow grew larger, straighter, darker at the edges and silver at the heart. Its ribs no longer showed. Its head lifted until it towered over the throne wall. No longer a dying beast, but a royal wolf remembering its own strength. Then it turned toward Elara. The court froze. A freed royal wolf could have bowed to its king. It did not. It stepped forward from the wall as shadow and moonfire, lowered its massive head before the wolfless girl, and pressed its brow to the floor at her feet. Kaelen's breath caught. Elara stared, trembling. The bone chalice glowed between them. High Healer Orvain, bound by the curse he had fed for years, looked up with hatred and terror. "This is how it begins," he rasped. "The beast chooses her over the crown." Kaelen stepped beside Elara. "No," he said. His voice filled the hall. "This is how the lie ends. This is how the lie ends." Kaelen's words struck the Moonbone Hall with the weight of a royal decree. But it was not the throne that answered him first. It was the wolves. One by one, every wolf shadow in the court lowered its head. Noble wolves, guard wolves, healer wolves, old gray beasts half faded behind their masters, young, restless shadows still learning the shape of power. They bowed not because Kaelen commanded them. They bowed because the royal wolf had finally stopped bleeding in silence. And every beast in the hall understood what human mouths had spent years pretending not to hear. The bone chalice hovered above the altar, silver fire running along its ancient rim. The black curse that had once lived inside Kaelen's wolf now coiled around High Healer Orvain's chest, locked into the healer's chain he had worn like proof of virtue. Each wolf-tooth link cracked darker, showing names, rights, and false treatments hidden inside the polished bone. Orvain clawed at the chain, but the silver circle beneath his feet held him. "This is unlawful," he rasped. Elara looked at him from beside Kaelen. Her body shook with exhaustion. Her throat burned. The hollow silver vessel inside her chest still rang from touching the curse, but it no longer felt like a wound waiting to be filled. It felt like a bell. "No," she said. "This is the first lawful thing the Chalice has done tonight." The court heard her, not the way they had heard her earlier, as a wolfless girl trying to survive accusation. They heard her as the person the relic had obeyed. That frightened them more. Mirelle stood inside her own fading silver circle, her blue silk stained by black lines at the hem. The gray mark beneath her feet still burned faintly, the named fear she had fed into the lie. She looked at Orvain now with hatred stripped of elegance. "You told me it would save him," she said. Orvain turned his head slowly. "It did." Kaelen's wolf shadow gave a low growl. The healer smiled through pain. "He became king, did he not? He lived long enough to rule. He lived long enough for every pack to fear him. If his beast suffered, then his beast served the crown better in chains than it ever would have in love." Kaelen's face went still. Elara felt the blow of those words in him before he moved. The old wound, the old belief. A king taught that anything tender in him was weakness, anything loyal outside council design was danger. His hand shifted near his sword. Elara touched his wrist, not to stop justice, to stop Orvain from shaping it. Kaelen looked down at her hand, then at her. Slowly, he released the sword. The court saw it. The Alpha King choosing restraint because the wolfless girl beside him had asked without speaking. Orvain saw it too, and his expression twisted. "There. Already she rules the beast through you." "No," Kaelen said. "She reminds the man." The answer broke something in the hall more deeply than rage would have. Elara stepped toward the bone chalice. "Show the last witness." The chalice turned in the air. Silver fire poured upward, forming a final vision above the altar. The court saw Orvain standing in the healing chamber only hours before Elara's arrest, holding black moonroot between his fingers. They saw him send a false page in a red wig and burnscar glove to summon her. They saw him smear moonroot on the ash bucket handles she would carry. They saw him hide the page's body beneath the old healer's stair before dawn. A cry broke from the guards. The false page had been real once. A young servant boy, killed, and used as costume for a lie. Elara's stomach turned. Kaelen's voice dropped. You murdered him to frame her. Orvain did not deny it. One servant life against a kingdom. The bone chalice flared so bright every person in the hall shielded their eyes. When the light faded, the murdered boy's name burned above the altar. Tevin Reed. Elara whispered it once. Because someone should. Then the name drifted into the chalice and settled beside hers, not as accusation but record. Kaelen faced the court. High Healer Orvain will live. A word of protest rose. Orvain himself looked startled. Kaelen's eyes remained cold. Death would let him escape the shape of what he made. He will be stripped of office, chained in the Moonbone crypt, and every wolf he poisoned, every servant he sacrificed, every false healing he performed will be named before the pack. The bone chalice rang once. Acceptance. Elara looked at Marilla. The noblewoman stiffened, perhaps expecting execution, perhaps hoping for it. Elara's anger toward her was not clean. It was tangled with pity, disgust, and the bitter knowledge that fear had made a weapon of a girl before that girl became a woman. But fear did not erase choice. You will answer too, Elara said. Morel lifted her chin, though her eyes shone. I know. No secret exile. No soft forgiveness because you wore silk while others held the knife. Morel flinched. Kaelen added, You will speak before every young wolf and every girl promised as alliance to a crown. You will tell them what obedience to fear made of you. Morel's lips trembled. For once, she did not dress pain as dignity. And after? Kaelen looked at Elara. He did not decide for her. Elara breathed through the ache in her chest. After, you live with the answer. Morel lowered her eyes. The court quieted. Then the bone chalice descended. It hovered before Elara, pale and luminous, filled now not with blackness, not with moonlit judgment, but with clear, silver water. A new line of script circled its rim. Chalice-Blood air. The words moved through the hall like shock. Elara stared at them. Air. Not empty. Not wolfless. Not vessel. Heir to a bloodline that did not exist to swallow poison and disappear, but to name corruption and return it to the hands that poured it. The chalice tilted toward her. Kaelen's body tensed beside her. Elara understood his fear. The last time the chalice rose to her mouth, it had nearly turned her into a sacrifice. This time, the whisper inside it was different. Drink only what is yours. Elara lifted the chalice with both hands. The court held its breath. Kaelen's wolf shadow watched her, head still low before her feet, silver eyes bright and wary. She drank. The silver water did not burn. It did not fill the hollow inside her with poison. It moved through her like moonlight through a locked room, touching every place the world had named absence. The vessel in her chest became clear, rimmed in pale fire. Her wrist mark brightened fully, a crescent cup beneath the skin, delicate and undeniable. When she lowered the chalice, every wolf in the hall saw it. Every human did too. Elara turned to Kaelen's wolf shadow. The beast lifted its head. The last thin thread of black curse still clung to one rib, trembling like a parasite that had lost its root. Elara reached out, then stopped before touching. May I? She asked. Kaelen's breath caught. The wolf shadow bowed lower. Yes, not in words. In trust. Elara placed her palm against the beast's brow. Silver light passed from her chalice-blood mark into the royal wolf. The last curse thread loosened, curled away from its rib, and flew back across the hall toward Orvain's chain. It struck the healer's chest and locked into place with the others. Kaelen staggered, but this time not from pain. His wolf shadow rose, fully, no longer twisted, no longer starved, no longer dragging chains through every breath. It filled the wall behind the throne in black and silver. Enormous and whole, fur dark as midnight, eyes bright as winter moons. A howl tore through the open roof of the Moonbone Hall. Every wolf answered. Elara covered her mouth as tears blurred the altar. The court, the chalice, the king beside her. She had thought she had no wolf, but when the royal beast turned and stood behind her as well as behind Kaelen, she understood that her life had never been empty. It had been guarded by a loyalty no curse had managed to kill. Kaelen faced the court. His voice carried through the howling. Elara Venn stands under royal protection. The nobles stirred. He lifted one hand. No, not protection because she is weak. Not protection because she belongs to me. Protection because this court nearly murdered the only person here who could tell the truth from poison. His gaze moved to the elders, the healers, the silent nobles who had watched her dragged to the altar. From this night forward, no wolfless child in my kingdom will be named empty. No healer will touch a beast, soul without witness. No council will choose a mate for the crown while the wolf is chained from speaking. And every law written against Chalice-Blood will be opened, read, and judged again. A noble elder rose shakily. My king, if she is truly your bond, Kaelen's eyes flashed. Then she will hear it from me when no court is using it as a weapon. Elara looked at him. The words struck deeper than any declaration would have. He was not claiming her before a hall that had just tried to kill her. He was refusing to let their bond become another chain tied around her throat. Kaelen turned to her then, all the cold power of the Alpha King stripped back to something rawer and more dangerous. I do not know what name the moon gives this, he said quietly. Bond, debt, fate, mercy. I know only that my wolf chose you before I understood choice, and tonight, you freed him without making his life your prison. Elara's voice trembled. I was afraid you would ask me to save him by losing myself. His face tightened. I would rather lose the throne. The hall heard it. So did the wolf. So did Elara. She did not answer with forgiveness. Not yet. Not with love too quickly shaped for court satisfaction, but she reached for his burned hand, the one that had gripped the chalice with hers when the curse tried to rise. He let her take it. His fingers closed carefully, as if she were neither fragile nor owned, but precious because she was free to pull away. Behind them, the royal wolf shadow lowered its head around them both, not caging them, sheltering them. The Bone Chalice settled back onto the altar, for the first time in 300 years. Its rim held no blackness, only silver light. Orvain was taken away beneath the weight of his own curse. Morel followed under guard, no longer chosen mate, no longer court jewel, only a witness who would have to live long enough to speak what fear had made her. The nobles slowly sank to their knees. Not all from loyalty. Some from terror. Some from shame. Some because their wolves had already bowed and their bodies were late to truth. Elara looked at them and felt no triumph. She felt tired, bruised, alive. The hollow in her chest no longer a wound, but a clear silver cup she would learn to carry on her own terms. Kaelen leaned closer, his voice low enough for only her. What do you need? The question nearly broke her. She looked up through the open roof, where the winter moon watched over the hall that had tried to bury her. Time, she said, and the truth about every chalice. Blood, child, your kingdom erased. You will have both, and I will not be your cure. His answer came without hesitation. No, you will be my choice only if I become yours. Elara looked at him then, at the Alpha King, at the man, at the wolf who had once saved her in snow and suffered for it without knowing her name. For the first time, the word wolfless did not feel like absence. It felt like a lie falling away. She squeezed his hand once. Not a promise. Not yet, but enough. Outside the Moonbone Hall, the royal wolf howled again, whole and free, and this time Elara did not hear it from a distance. She felt it answer inside the silver place, where her emptiness used to be.